Listen, 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 listen. You need to make more money. I need to make more money. We all together need to make more money. So today we're going to talk about some high yielding ETFs, the YIELDMAX ETFs. If you've heard of them, they're pretty popular. They're kind of all over the place right now. But let's look into the website. Let's see how they've been performing. Maybe do some comparisons to some other ETFs and see if they're good or full of crap. I'm not sure at this point. I don't own any of them. Disclaimer, I don't own any of them. I'm not paid to talk about them. Of course, if I was, that'd be great, but I'm not. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Welcome back to 5-Minute DD. We're going to talk about some interesting funds today, so I hope you stick around and I hope you enjoy the video. Taking a look at the YIELDMAX ETF website, it's pretty crazy. So I haven't checked in on these for a long time. They're pretty interesting. There's a ton. So let's see, distribution rate, expense ratio. They all have a 1% expense ratio. Now that's high. That's pretty high. I think typically it's like a 0.65. So you're looking at nearly double. Sometimes it's like 0.35. So these are definitely higher expense ratios. And I can see why. The dividend yields are pretty insane. So distribution rate, dividend yield, same thing. That's the amount that they are paying out. Now, Tesla's TSLY, the 30-day SEC yield. So this is what it paid out the last 30 days with expenses already taken out. So you would have made 4.5% just by owning this for the last month, which is insane. Now, looking at all the other ones as well, there's so many now. We'll just go through them all. OARK, this is the innovation option strategy on ARKK, which is a really popular Cathie Wood fund. We have APLY, Apple, NVIDIA, Amazon, Meta, Google. Now, Meta and Google and Amazon weren't even around last time I was looking at these. These are all new. Coin is at about 75%. NFLY, is that Netflix? Yeah, that's crazy. Disney, Microsoft, Zom. Yeah, that's wild. Zom is an interesting one. XOM. That is a fuel company. For those that don't know, JP Morgan. That one looks like it hasn't even been around that long. So some of these newer ones are just trailing a little bit with a little bit lower yields. But we'll see how they do. Now, talking about these ETFs, we'll look at the dividend history of, like, I don't know, maybe the first 5. I don't want to make this video, 20 minutes long, but we got to look at these stocks and see if they're actually worth it. ETFs. I use stocks and ETFs synonymously, and they're not. I know that, but I do, so sorry. I'll try not to. But looking at these ETFs, there's a lot to look at. One thing, I went to the YIELDMAX Twitter. It's really interesting. They have this really old, like, Microsoft Paint 2002 looking background. 4,000 followers, which is pretty phenomenal. Could be better. They're still pretty young, but look at this. So CONY, I think that's the Coinbase one. Yes, coin option strategy is currently yielding 73, almost 74%, with a 30-day SEC yield of 4%. Now, the best 30-day SEC yield, that would be Netflix, but those aren't actually current. What's the date on this? 10 hours ago, so they are current. So their website contradicts that a little bit, but I don't know which one's not updated. We'll show this video, but back to the Twitter. It's a pretty good spot to just go and learn about these a little bit. Look at all the different ones they're looking at. They're also going to be making more, I guarantee it. Like, of the ones we looked at, they're going to make one for PayPal. I love PayPal. And Square Cash, SQ, really good one. AMD, similar to NVIDIA. So they have a lot of options too. Growing in popularity for sure. When I first looked at these, there were like, Tesla was the only one that had a history. And so they're definitely pushing these out like crazy. Now, I want to show this snip of the video. Am I in the way? No, I'm not. So this is from their YIELDMAX YouTube. We have more subscribers. Good work, gang. But they basically did a small interview. I'm just going to play like a minute of it. And he explains how they work their strategies. From what I understand with these covered call ETFs, I'm not going to explain it all because he's going to explain it. But you definitely just want a pretty consistent price. But he explains it better than I do, so I'm not even going to bother. Let's listen.
Volatility. And so the relationship of all 4 of those will change the amount that we earn. So for example, the higher the price of the stock, the more we will earn in cash when we sell the calls. Vice versa is true, right? The lower the price, we'll earn less. Distance out of the money, right? The farther away we are, the less we earn, meaning the more upside that we sell the calls for, we end up earning less. The time to expiration, the more time we have in those calls, means we'll earn more time premium when we sell the calls. But the number one reason by far, the number one driver of the call premium is the implied volatility within the options themselves, right? What is the embedded volatility? So the higher the volatility of the underlying stock and the implied volatility in the options, the more that we will earn in premium. And when you look at the history of, let's say, the TSLY, Tesla ETF, you can see that the implied volatility has changed over time, moved up and down, and so have the dividends that we've distributed. They are fairly in line with the way that the...
Okay. Implied volatility, super important. I like that they have the yields on here. So you can see that the higher the volatility, the higher the yield. So when volatility drops, yield drops because they're going to make less money on those calls, because the more volatility there is, the higher the risk, the more reward. That's how I look at it. Now, I'm no options expert. I haven't traded options in a while, but you want higher implied volatility, which typically isn't good for shareholders, but can be good for income ETFs when looking at this.
Implied volatility moves.
So the secret here really is all about that implied volatility. That's really interesting.
Just like I said, Cynthia.
Thank you so much, Jay, for explaining this.
All right. Cynthia's got it. She's locked in. Let's look at some of the dividend histories of these. We're going to start out with TSLY, one of my favorite ones, the first one, because I love Tesla. I love Tesla. Okay. So 57% dividend yield. Annual payout is almost $8, which is crazy because it's trading at $13 right now. So it's just... I have a Seeking Alpha account. Why is it wanting me to log in? Anyways, just pretty wild. Pretty wild. You can make a lot of money on this amount. 58 cents was the last dividend, but it is going to change a lot based on the implied volatility. So the way that I look at these, you want high volatility markets when you're looking at these income ETFs. Higher volatility equates to more money. Now, you don't want the price to drop out of that implied volatility quickly. You want it to move up and down with high volatility over a certain time span, so you're not messing up those calls. Because like he said, if you go too high up or too low, you're going to lose money based off of the volatility of it. So a really interesting point there. I want to look at their dividend history. Dividend history. Okay. So 3 years. They haven't even been around 3 years. So it started in 2023. Have they even been around 1 year? Pretty much. Okay, so it started with the dollar. You can see where it moves all over. So this July, I think, is when the price dropped pretty heavily. And so the dividend jumped because higher volatility. And then it went back up. Volatility came back down. So you're evening out a little bit. But again, this is like the only dividend history. Like on a year, the dividend history is pretty crazy. You want more than a year of dividend history. Now, what else should we look at? Let's look at OARK. I don't think that is one of their oldest ones. I remember this one being relatively new, but we're just going to go right into the dividend history. Kind of similar with the volatility. So the market does play a role on these quite a bit, because if the whole market's going up, implied volatility will be affected by that. 44% dividend yield. So they're having it as a 30. Let's do APLY. Only an 11. They have it as a 30. I wonder when their last payout was. Let's see. Oh, we can also check the dividend history. Yeah, because they've only had 5 payouts so far. What's that total up to? Adjusted amount, 50 cents, 20 cents, $1, $1.50, almost $2. So yeah, out of 20, you're not looking at anything too crazy. So yeah, the Apple one's not been performing that well. Let's look at 2 more. We'll look at Nvidia. My brain just shut off there for a second. Again, 5 dividends paid. Pretty good amount. These ones that are almost $1, that's phenomenal. Paying out from the 6. It paid out 6 days ago, 67 cents, which is pretty good. Not insane, but let's look at the dividend scorecard. It's all locked. They're having it as a 18% yield. What are they saying it is? See, 36. I don't know why the yields are so different. What did the Twitter say? says 36. Well, I guess we could do some math on our own here, shall we? Shall we run some numbers? All right. Let me not make a fool of myself on here. So 0.67 plus 0.92 plus 0.81 plus 0.96. We'll give them an extra cent plus 0.75. It's equal to $4.11. Now, what are they trading at right now? 22. 411. I did that wrong. 411 divided by their current price of 22.55. Did I do it wrong twice? Yes, 411. Oh, I didn't clear it. 411 divided by 22.55 times 100. Yeah, 18. If you guys didn't know, that's how you calculate it. You just add up the dividends yourself. I don't know why they're saying their dividend yield is so much higher. I mean, 18% is not bad by any means, but it's not 30%. Let's check another one. AMZY. All right. 2 dividends at just about $1.10. And they're trading for 19, almost $20. So they're saying that the yield is 38%. It's not. I can tell you by looking at it, it's not. When was their last payout? They pay out monthly, and they've only paid out 2 months so far. So I guess it really does depend. Let's look at their chart a little bit. Weird. So typically, yeah, what, 2 months, 6 months? So they have been falling pretty steeply. I guess I shouldn't say steeply, 8.5%. So if the price had dipped pretty crazy, that would force the yield payout ratio to go up. So say it dropped from like 30 to 20, then it would make sense for it to be like that much money. So I was wondering, maybe the price has jumped since their website was last updated, and so it hasn't calculated that in, but it doesn't look that way. One more. What should I look at? Netflix, coin, FBY. Let's do FBY. I'm gonna be doing a new dividend challenge. I've been slacking with the dividend challenge, so we're gonna do another one for 2024, and I'm gonna start talking about that a bit. And we're gonna see what stocks we're gonna be putting in the account. I'm gonna choose 10 high yielding dividend stocks. I'm gonna do a number of these YIELDMAX ETFs because it's just bread and butter at this point. TSLY is going in there. It's gonna be the first one in there. So this one is paid out 45 cents and 30 cents, so roughly about 73 cents, and it's $20. I don't know where they're getting these yields from on here, because they're not that high. Looking at the prospectus, I just don't know. 1 month or less. Expiration dates. There's probably a good amount of information in here. I'm not going to read through all this. You guys can if you want to and tell me the good points. That'd be great. Maybe I should do that because I'm providing the content, but whatever. Here we have the expense ratio, full percent. That's a lot, but it is actively managed. So that's why if you're returning 5% every month, you paying 1% a year is not that bad. Is it a year? I don't know how those percentages are even calculated, to be honest. Is it a year? Is it a percent of what you made? I should look that up. Okay, I'm not reading this. This thing's huge. 126 pages? Pass. But anyway, looking at the YIELDMAX ETFs, let me know what you guys think. I'm genuinely super curious as to if these have made people money, because like USOI and ZIM, things have just been dying lately, and I don't want to be a part of another dying stock, to be honest. I'm sure you guys don't either. We need to make some money. So I'm hoping that these are our way to do that, but if they're not, we need to know that sooner rather than later. So drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think about these. Are they actually useful? What have you made? If you own these, tell me what you've made, because I'm super curious, because the best way to find out is by asking people that own it and have been getting paid the dividends. You got to also calculate in that the taxes on the dividends are probably going to be pretty high. So don't forget that as part of the downside overall with the risk as well. But that's going to be it. Again, I appreciate you guys watching this video. You guys are the best. We'll be putting out some more content. I've been super lazy, to be honest. I don't even want to talk about why. Don't even ask me why. But we'll put out some more content and basically keep going with it. Keep making money. Maybe do some real estate content next. So Who knows? But overall, I really do appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.